On December 15, 1997, 26-year-old Luz Cuevas was sitting at home, trying to get her 10-day-old baby, Delimar, down to sleep for the night. Once she was asleep in the late evening, her proud mother placed her in her crib. Luz then quietly left the room to join the rest of her family downstairs. She thought she would start on the household chores, while her boyfriend worked on a car outside. Her boyfriend's cousin Carolyn unexpectedly arrived with car troubles. She was also a new mother and sat down in the living room, regularly making small talk as Luz went about her day. As the evening carried on, they heard a small explosive sound coming from upstairs. Moments later, the two noticed a cloud of smoke pouring down the stairs. They immediately knew there was a fire in one of the bedrooms. Reacting quickly, Luz ran outside to safety with her sons, and ran back into the darkness to get Delimar to safety. She made her way through the thick cloud, and noticed the fire was originating from the baby's bedroom. As she opened the door, she was immediately hit by fire and smoke, and realized the crib was empty. It was getting difficult to breathe, and the heat was too much to withstand. She had no time to investigate and ran back downstairs. She stumbled outside coughing, and began screaming for help. Neighbors came outside to see the blaze, and as the fire grew, one neighbor ran into the house to try and save Delimar. His vision was impaired, and he was met with the same difficulties. Firefighters eventually arrived on the scene, and extinguished the fire in under 15 minutes, which felt like a lifetime for Luz, who was repeatedly screaming to them to save her baby. The fire had done irreversible damage to the property, and to Delimar's room. Firefighters went in to investigate. They found the source in the corner of the room. It was a makeshift extension with a heater plugged in, which short-circuited and burst into flames. They approached the mother and father, giving them the terrible news that there is a strong possibility that Delimar may have passed away. While they were still searching through the ash and debris, they knew that a baby would not have been able to survive the fire. Luz broke down and knew that her baby was not in the crib, and claimed that she knew in her heart that she was alive. Hours passed, and firefighters conducted a thorough examination of the home. During the search, they found what they believed to be human ashes. Despite the evidence of human remains, Luz still refused to believe it. She could feel that her baby was still okay. As far as we can see, Luz did not hold a funeral for Delimar, and did not get a death certificate. Her determination became an obsession, which put strain between her and her family, eventually resulting in the collapse of her relationship with Delimar's father. Several years had passed, and Luz still held on to the hope that she was still alive, and maybe she was right. 6 years later, in 2004, she attended a family birthday party. She was going about her day, talking and scanning the room. That's when she noticed a little girl that was about 6 years old. Strangely, she could see herself in her eyes, and felt a really strong connection. Even more coincidentally, she noticed that the girl had very similar dimples to her sons. She decided to sit down and have a chat with her. Her bond towards the girl grew stronger. The more she spoke with her, it may have been a coincidence, but Luz started to believe that this could actually be Delimar. She began asking around to see who the mother was. Unbelievably, she found out that the mother was her ex-boyfriend's cousin, Carolyn. Something clicked in her mind. The pieces to the puzzle began to fit together. She knew that Delimar was missing from her crib. Carolyn was there on the night of the fire. This girl would have been roughly the same age, with the same eyes, and recognizable characteristics on her face that matched her son's. But she couldn't just outright claim that is her child. She needed evidence. She quietly told Delimar that she had gum in her hair. She pretended to take the gum out, and secured several strands of hair. She put the strands into a Ziploc bag, and left the party. If this was her baby, she needed definitive proof. DNA tests were not as advanced and readily available as they are today. Plus, Luz wanted to confirm this in the most legal way as she could. This was to prevent any backlash and potentially losing her again. She booked an appointment with the state's representative, Angel Cruz. She sat with Angel for over an hour, breaking down the events that unfolded back in 1997. The empty crib, the lack of remains, the sudden appearance of Carolyn, the electrical fire, and her belief that her daughter was kidnapped. Angel found her to be very credible, and he agreed to take on the case. He passed the DNA across to the district attorney's office, and had it tested. A mother always knows has never been more accurate. The results came back as a perfect DNA match. They confirmed that Delimar was kidnapped. You're probably wondering how Carolyn managed to get away with it. Luz had never actually met her before the day of the fire. Carolyn drove from New Jersey to Philadelphia with the twisted motive to kidnap Delimar. She started off by pretending to her cousin that her car had issues with the brakes. She distracted Luz by having meaningless small talk, making Luz believe that she also had a baby the week prior, forcing her alibi. When Luz was in the kitchen, Carolyn went upstairs and started the fire. She took Delimar out of her crib and cautiously walked outside. As everyone was panicking, running in and out of the house, Carolyn put Delimar into her car and drove back to New Jersey. She never had any issues with her car. She told her boyfriend and family that she was pregnant. When she returned home, she stated that she gave birth in her house, so no red flags were raised, and no one would ever think that she kidnapped her. She renamed Delimar to Aaliyah and claimed she was her daughter. For 6 years, Carolyn did have a history with the police. In the early 90s, she was caught doing fraudulent activities. To remove traces of evidence, she burned it. After being caught, she was charged with fraud and arson, and received 5 years probation. It was reported that Carolyn was a great mother, who already had 3 children of her own. Her family and friends were extremely shocked. When she got arrested, during the trial her lawyers moved towards an insanity defense, claiming that Delimar's father coerced and supported her during the kidnapping. As far as we can see, she was the only person to be convicted of abduction. Fortunately, the judge saw straight through her manipulative tactics, charging her with 9 to 30 years in prison in 2005. Other articles have stated that the kidnapping could have been resolved earlier if the fire services took the remains seriously. The remains that they found was actually wool, which can be mistaken for human ashes. Cremation specialists stated that the fire needed to burn over 1000 degrees before someone can be cremated. At worst, the firefighters should have known that they were looking for skeletal remains. Either way, Luz and Delimar were eventually reunited after 6 years apart. During the transition, Luz decided to keep her new name, Aaliyah, to avoid any further complications. There was also a language barrier, which they had to work through. Luz mainly spoke Spanish, and Aaliyah primarily spoke English. Despite everything, they returned to life as normal. Here they are in 2005, and here they are now almost 20 years later. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit like and subscribe. Thank you and stay safe. The world can be so unpredictable at times.